Good morning. It's Friday, February 6, 2026. I'm Eric A. Sonati, and this is the National Report. Here's what's happening across the United States this morning. We begin this morning with the White House. The White House reports administration's posture this morning remains unchanged and is focused on routine federal operations. Officials addressed standard executive functions as usual, interagency coordination, and daily scheduled briefings. The administration reported no new policy directives and no changes to existing enforcement postures. The White House officials emphasized that decisions continue to be made within existing legal authority and established statutory frameworks, as always. Officials declined to preview future actions and said that any updates would always be communicated through standard operating channels. International developments. Middle East developing this morning. United States and Iranian officials are entering high-stakes nuclear talks in Oman. U.S. officials say diplomacy remains the preferred path, but stress that military options remain on the table. If negotiations fail, the talks come amid heightened regional tensions and increased military readiness across the Gulf. Officials warn that the outcome could determine whether the region stabilizes or escalates. This is something we must be paying attention to. The president's daily schedule for this Friday. According to the president's schedule on Eastern Time, routine press pool activity is expected. The president is scheduled to receive his daily intelligence briefing. That meeting, of course, is closed to the press and to the public. Any public remarks or written guidance will be released if warranted. Now, turning to the top story this morning. This is a very important one, so listen up, folks. Federal law enforcement agencies issue a nationwide public safety alert involving children. Okay, I repeat. Federal law enforcement agencies issue a nationwide public safety alert involving children. The alert was issued by the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Authorities warn parents, schools, communities about an online network referred to as 764. I'm going to repeat 764. Federal officials describe 764 as a loosely affiliated online network, not a single organization, and it is not limited to one platform. Investigators report that the network targets minors through online contact, often beginning with grooming behavior that escalates into coercion, blackmail, and sexual exploitation, and encouragement of self-harm. And unfortunately, there are documented cases of real-world injury and even death. Folks, this is of a serious nature. If you have children or you know people with children, please pay attention to the information that we are going to provide you. It is key. You are the difference between the safety of our children. We are that difference. We are the eyes. We are the gatekeepers, and we have to uphold that duty. Officials emphasize that activity spans multiple environments. So this is not just one network, folks. This is not one social media platform. This is not one gaming platform. This is, again, a loosely affiliated network, but operating in a coordinated plan, as we're going to break down as we move forward. So you have to pay attention. We're talking several environments here: gaming platforms, social media, direct messaging, private servers, and encrypted or disappearing message applications. Key escalation points identified by investigators is platform migration. So basically, it is for us non-techie people. when you are able to cross platforms and able to get somebody in, let's say, for different age groups, Facebook, and say, hey, follow me over on Instagram, and then grab me on Twitter, which is now X, etc., YouTube to Rumble. This is migration, but we are talking dark web gaming, targeting minor children. Okay, this is a very serious moment. It must have the most seriousness of attention. When a child is contacted in one of these spaces, and then they are pressured to move that communication into a private or even an encrypted channel or space, which makes it even harder for law enforcement and other agencies to even get in and track these messages and these bad actors down. Now, again, we have the finest law enforcement, the finest cybersecurity professionals in the world, hands down. But with encryption and disappearing messages, it does hamper and slow the process down. This is why it is paramount for you folks at home, all of us, to be ever vigilant at all times. So here's what authorities say parents should know. Investigators report that the threat is not defined by any specific app names, but we can go through them. You all know the different apps that are out there. There are plenty of them. And starting with the mainstream ones that we all use to very, very obscure ones that us older generation hear, but really don't know what they are. And shame on us for not learning what they are. But it goes by patterns. And the patterns include secrecy, isolation, and pressure. Just imagine being a young child, boy or girl, impressionable, and all of the pressure that they're dealing with out there with bullying and everything else. And now you're adding a predator of the worst, vile type, now targeting them on top of what they're dealing with. Language parents are urged to question includes requests to keep secrets. Okay, there aren't any secrets. Okay, I know that this is going to be a trigger moment for some people at home, and it's going to be a volatile conversation with some families and their children. But that is our job as adults, to have those conversations, whether the children like it or not. There are no secrets. Requests to delete messages. Again, this is paramount for everybody who has a minor child. We could go down the thought process of what your opinion is and my opinion is of when a child should have access to an electronic device. That is a parental decision, and we here at the National Report are not going to pass judgment nor tell you what that age is to be appropriate. Some states are passing laws on that, but we're not commenting on that. It is incumbent upon you as the parent to, at least if you're going to have your minor child having access to devices, to monitor those devices, to have master access to those devices, meaning master passwords, backdoor ways in, which we are going to cover on Eric A. Sonati Unplugged in a future episode in detail on how you can do this to protect. But statements from kids feeling that being told that there are consequences, that if they tell a trusted adult, something bad will happen to their parent or their adult or to them. We're talking about young children being compromised, sexually exploited, having photographs of them taken even without their own volition. We're not talking about children who are actively texting and sending images, which again, that is a national issue we have already. But we're talking about people accessing webcams and all other types of camera devices and getting images or getting into devices and taking images and then having them and then using them against the minor and telling them, if you go and tell a trusted parent or somebody, we're going to release this information. And either they're worried about it being released or they're worried that they will be in trouble. And that, I think, is another key fact. cannot let them ever feel that they are going to be in trouble. We have to be calm and rational. Authorities also warn that some interactions are framed as challenges or even tasks. Um, Literally sending minors out to do challenges and tasks to prove that you're a man or you're a woman or you're strong or you're tough or you're cool or you're my friend or whatever the word is for whatever age this child is. It's used to test their boundaries. Okay, this is a tool. This is a tool utilized by a predator that's grooming our children. And they're using this as a way to test to see how far they can push your child. And what it comes down to is how far do we push back? And it's about increasing control. They want control over these children. They want control over these children for so many depraved things that we can't even possibly get into on this show. Behavioral warning signs, including sudden secrecy around devices, more so than normal. Of course, every child, every person is like, oh, don't touch my iPhone, don't touch this device, but then there is real secrecy. Obviously pay attention to your children. You know your children. If you're a teacher, you know your students, the behaviors of what is ordinary and what is outside of ordinary. When you start to see those behaviors, these are warning signs. Don't just think it's flirtatious behavior and they're hiding, little messages being passed around. This could be seriously, really vile things that are very, very dangerous and could potentially harm or worse to your child. Pay attention to late night online activity. Now, again, it is all within reason. You have to know the standard behavior of your child, and who am I to tell you how to handle it? I'm just giving you the information that's here. It's incumbent upon you to know the activity and to have access and be able to see. Come to Eric A. Sonati Unplugged. We will be having an episode about this particular rise of trouble, let's just say, rise of danger, and we will be more specific on how to protect yourself, where you can go, and tools that are out there for your safety. Pay attention for, obviously, withdrawal from family and friends. Withdrawal from family and friends, your standard, depression signs. How about anxiety over messages and notifications coming through on devices? Jumpy over devices. I guess the best way I can think of that is when I was in high school, when I knew I did something wrong and it was dinner time and the phone rang, I had that jump because I knew that the school was calling. I guess that would be the equivalent to today, the device going off and the minor acting jumpy and weird. That might be something for you to look into. Strong reactions should they lose their device, whether they lost it or it was taken away. Now, granted, we're seeing iPad babies or whatever they're called. This is a thing, but we're talking about children that are truly minors, children that are obscenely losing their mind over losing a device. Refusing to identify who their online contact friends are. Now, again, we're not going to pass judgment here on the National Report, but it's up to you to decide if you really want your minor child to have online friends and not know who they are and where they come from. Officials are stressing that patterns matter. Patterns matter. Okay, patterns are there. It's more than one single sign. It's more than one single sign. It could be a multitude of things. You need to pay attention, not to be a trigger and get everybody alarmed, but we need to be aware. If we're not aware, we can't combat this. Here's what authorities are saying parents should do. Maintain open communication with children about online interactions. These are things that should have been happening all along, and we are hoping that will be more structured. This is something that schools and daycares, even sadly, child cares should be, having information and discussions about appropriate online interactions, if there are any at all. Um, Parents should know what games and apps that your minor child is using that actually have messaging features and voice chat, because they are having live conversations in a game. And that's how these predators are getting in there. So if you're going to have, especially your preteens or teens, they're going to be playing a video game and they're going to play with their friends. And then some predator gets in there and they're talking to your child. Now, I want you to really lament this for a moment. Think about this. If you're in your car, it's early this morning. I'm not trying to ruin your day. I'm trying to give you the facts as they are. If you were in the mall or anywhere in public and a stranger was having a conversation with your child when you came back to the table from the restroom and your child was at a table, you would be very upset. Imagine this times 100 in a private room while they're alone in their bedroom with an ear set talking to some perp somewhere around the world or maybe even closer. So you need to know what games they are playing and what apps they have, and if those have messaging features and if they have live chat features. If they do, you should disable the direct messaging feature from strangers whenever possible. So we're not saying, if the federal government, the FBI, Department of Justice is not saying that you should tell all the minor children they can't communicate with anybody. That is not what we're doing here. What is being said is that you should look and see who should be communicating with them. It's no different than on any other social messaging app. I with my show, if people reach out on social media, I don't have public people that can have conversations with me because I don't know who they are. And I'm an adult. So this should be very much the same for a minor child. And it sounds like we're preaching here, but this is the facts. This is the report. I'm not making this up. I'm reporting it to you as it is. And I guess we get overburdened with technology, and technology changes, as I've reported here. It changes so quickly, and I'm learning what new terms are daily. So this is an ever-changing process. We, as adults, have to grow with tech as our children grow with tech. We have to set a limit on message features, the disappearing message specifically, disappearing features. Some of these apps have a message that are there for like 5 minutes or whatever, 30 seconds, and boom, they're gone. That would include any images and any files or whatever else. We have to know if that is available in those apps. Again, come to Unplugged and we will tell you specific programs and platforms that this is available to happen. And we will help you find ways to disable them, and we will set you in the direction of who can help you. And you need to set clear rules against private conversations with unknown individuals. I mean, stranger danger. We all learned this. Stranger danger. If there is a concern, parents are urged to preserve messages and images. Please preserve the images and messages. And if at all possible, preserve the device. And if this does happen and you get custody of the device, secure that device and be sure that no one else touches that device until you turn it over to the appropriate law enforcement official to ensure the chain of custody and that all of the metadata and evidence can be extracted from that device to ensure that other children are no longer harmed and that the perpetrators can be located more expeditiously. Never delete evidence. Never, ever delete evidence. And always report immediately. Reports can be made through the FBI's electronic tip portal. It's tips.fbi.gov. tips.fbi.gov. Or through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children cyber tip line. That's report.fbi.gov. cybertip.org. Report.cybertip.org. In cases of immediate danger, parents should always immediately call 911 and get local law enforcement involved immediately. And while federal and state and other authorities are en route, always 911 is there, always. Now, moving on to national security and world affairs. Beyond the talks in Oman, U.S. officials are continuing to monitor develops in Eastern Europe and across the Pacific. No new publicly released national security advisories have been issued this morning as of yet. You should follow through during the day and continue to see if things are to change. Officials describe our posture as measured, calculated, and always coordinating with our allies. Now, to technology and industry. Federal agencies and private sector partners continued work this morning on supply chain resilience, critical infrastructure protection, and manufacturing capacity. Officials say these efforts remain focused on long-term stability, economic security, and of course, national readiness. Here is what you should watch for today. Developments from the U.S.-Iran talks in Oman, any follow-up guidance from federal law enforcement regarding the 764 alert, any updates to the White House schedule or written statements or releases, and any congressional movement on funding or oversight matters. And of course, updates may come through the day. You can always check back with the National Report. We will keep you updated. Now, this day in history, on a great note to go to, children and American protection. In 1912, the United States created the United States Children's Bureau, the first federal agency in the world dedicated entirely to the well-being of children. It marked the first time the federal government formally recognized that children require protections that are distinctly different from adults, a principle that continues to shape national policy today, as we were seeing with 764. And before we go, as always, a human factor and a moment of American responsibility and resiliency. We're going to say federal officials are again emphasizing that we protect children and always be aware. Communication, early reporting. Authorities said families play a crucial role. The family is the forefront, the front line. The family's the front line. You're the first line of defense. And that timely reporting of anything can prevent further harm. This issue is not political by any means. It is a deeply human issue, and it affects families across our country. That's the National Report this morning. I'm Eric A. Sinani. Facts matters, context matter, and we will keep bringing you both. Have a great morning and stay safe.
The National Report is an iHeart Prime featured show. New episodes drop daily, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms whenever you're ready to listen.